When this mother visited her newborn baby girl in the morgue for one final goodbye, she uncovered something that defied all logic. What she found left the world in shock, and her discovery was just the beginning of an incredible story. Stay with us until the end of this video to learn what truly happened. It's going to be an emotional journey, one you won't forget. Analia Lucia Buder, a mother from Argentina, had already experienced the joy of giving birth to 4 children. When she became pregnant with her 5th, a baby girl, Analia and her partner, Fabian Veron, were filled with hope. Their excitement was tempered by caution, as Analia had recently endured the heartbreak of a miscarriage. Tragically, just 26 weeks into her pregnancy, Analia's water broke and contractions began. Despite the early onset, there was no way to halt what was happening. Analia was rushed to Paranode Hospital in northeast Argentina, knowing that it was much too soon for her baby to be born, yet powerless to stop the inevitable. Little Lucia was born on the 3rd of April in 2012, almost 3 months early. She was a tiny thing, weighing only a mere pound and 12 ounces, and the worst thing was that she did not seem to be breathing or giving any other signs of life. The doctors tried to revive her and called in a neonatal doctor and a gynecologist, but even these experts could not detect any vital signs in the little girl. They observed the baby for a little while, but then declared that Lucia had been stillborn, pronounced her officially dead, and issued a death certificate even before Lucia had received a birth certificate. Her fragile little body was wrapped in cloth and placed in a little wooden coffin, which was brought to the morgue to prepare for her burial. Analia, meanwhile, had been under anesthesia during the birth and had to be told what had happened when she finally woke up. She was completely devastated and could not believe she had lost her daughter. It had all gone so fast, and Analia felt empty and incredibly sad. She also felt a strong urge to at least see her little daughter once, to see that she was really not alive, and to take a picture of her for the inevitable funeral service. She told her husband what she needed, what her heart yearned for, and persuaded him and her brother that evening to take her to the hospital morgue. Together, they obtained permission from the doctors, and the 3 of them made their way to see little Lucia one last time. More than 12 hours had passed since Lucia was born, and as they walked down the hospital corridors, Analia braced herself for the moment. Still weak from childbirth and shattered by the loss of her baby, she could barely fathom the pain of what lay ahead. The grief of losing a child is an unimaginable burden, yet tragically, many parents endure it. In the cold, somber morgue, Analia, her husband Fabian, and her brother located Lucia's tiny coffin within the refrigerated units. When they found it, they discovered that the coffin had already been nailed shut, requiring a crowbar to open. Fabian managed to find one, and with some effort, pried the lid off. As the lid finally gave way, Fabian stepped back, allowing Analia the space to see her daughter. Analia leaned over the small box, gazing at the fragile form of her little girl. With trembling fingers, she gently touched Lucia's hand and carefully uncovered the cloth from her face, wanting to see the delicate features of her baby one last time. And then the unthinkable happened. Analia suddenly heard a little cry and saw the big shiny eyes of her daughter looking up at her. Shocked, she jumped back, and she said to herself, "It's my imagination, it's my imagination," thinking it was simply because she wanted to hear it that she actually heard it. But the cries continued, and looking at her little girl lying there in the coffin, she seemed to be anything but dead. Lucia was waking up before her eyes, crying as if she were saying, "Mommy, I knew you would come for me." They were all stunned. How in heaven's name could this be even remotely possible? While Analia and her husband were paralyzed on the spot, Analia's brother reacted immediately, almost out of instinct. He grabbed the baby and ran her back to the neonatal ward, yelling for help the whole way. Once he arrived, he thrust the child into the hands of one of the nurses there, wanting them to take care of her. She had felt ice cold in his hands, like a little block of ice, clutching to his arms and chest for warmth. After the amazed doctors also confirmed the baby was indeed alive, Lucia was placed into an intensive care unit and given all the care she could possibly need. Her little body had to be warmed up, she had to be given oxygen and nutrition, and tests had to be performed to see if her more than 12-hour stay in the morgue refrigeration had caused any damage. And next to all that, the big question had to be answered. How could this have possibly happened? While Lucia was undergoing her treatments, her parents were once again trying to wrap their heads around this emotional event. Thinking they had lost their daughter, they now slowly started to realize she was not gone yet, and that she was perhaps going to pull through and live. It was a miracle to them, and right then they both decided that they were not going to call her Lucia, but Luz Milagros, which is Spanish for light and miracle. "I can't explain what happened," her father Fabian said, "only that God has performed a miracle." Neither could the doctors explain what had happened, though. How was this baby still alive, and how could they not have noticed it? An investigation was launched in the hospital immediately to find out if anyone could be blamed for this terrible mistake. The personnel who were involved have responsibilities and therefore will have to be held accountable for their actions, Rafael Sabatinelli, Deputy Secretary of Health in the Chaco region, said in a statement. All workers who had been involved in the case were suspended until the investigation had been completed, and it could ensure something like this would never happen again. Meanwhile, Luz Milagros was stabilizing in intensive care, and soon it was decided she would be flown to a hospital in Buenos Aires, where they have a special neonatal ward with the latest equipment. A few days later, Luz shocked everyone when she suddenly stopped breathing again due to a lung hemorrhage that caused her heart to stop, requiring extensive CPR to revive her. This episode severely damaged her brain, leaving only about 10% of it functional. Luz spent the next 10 weeks in a Buenos Aires hospital, dependent on machines and a mix of medicines to survive. Despite the grim prognosis, she grew stronger each day, gradually gaining weight, and was soon able to drink breast milk from her mother, a hopeful sign of progress. Sadly, her father Fabian could not deal with all the pressure and difficult times and left Analia and the children on their own. Now Analia had to do everything herself with the help of her family. At one point, Luz was ready to be taken off the oxygen support and transferred to a specialist unit closer to home, where she was cared for by specialists for another couple of weeks. And then finally, after so many scary and emotional months since her eventful birth in September, Luz was strong enough to go home with her mother. Analia felt she was holding a true miracle when she brought her daughter, Luz Milagros, home, but the journey was far from over. Over the next 14 months, Luz faced numerous health complications and developmental issues, a result of her premature birth, prolonged exposure to the cold, and cardiac arrest. Despite the challenges, Analia poured all her love and care into her little Luz, cherishing every moment with her miracle baby, even though resources were scarce. As follow-up tests revealed, Luz was suffering from microcephaly, a condition where her head and brain were not developing properly. The only treatment was a stem cell transplant, a complex and expensive procedure. Analia knew she couldn't afford this in Argentina, but considered taking Luz to China for the treatment. Undeterred by the doctor's concerns about Luz's strength, Analia launched a crowdfunding campaign to raise the necessary funds, hoping against hope for a chance to save her daughter. Then, a couple of months after her first birthday, which no one had thought Luz would ever reach to begin with, her health suddenly started to deteriorate. At the end of June, she went into cardiac arrest again, and Analia once again rushed her to the hospital. Luz was put on life support but remained in critical condition for several hours, and CPR did not seem to work anymore. And then suddenly, her little heart gave up, and little Luz, the miracle baby, passed away. It was heartbreaking, but this time she was really gone. I told you this would be an emotional roller coaster, right? I cannot imagine how Analia must have felt then, losing her daughter for the second time and having it be final this time. Sharing her loss with the world, Analia wrote an incredibly touching public goodbye letter to her daughter. "Today, my love," she wrote, "we are not saying goodbye because we will see each other again." She expressed that she felt calm and intensely grateful for every minute they had spent fighting together. "God sent Luz to me for this time, and I can assure you that the last year, 2 months, and 20 days together with her have made me the happiest woman on this planet. Today, my angel is happy, running and laughing, just as all of us who love her want her to be. She expressed her belief that Luz had a special purpose on this earth. One day, a young boy approached her, confessing that he had considered ending his life. But after witnessing Luz's unwavering fight for her own, he thought, if she can fight so hard, why can't I? This gives me chills, and I send all my strength to Analia and her family during these unimaginably tough times. I'm really keen to know your thoughts on this story, so please don't hesitate to share your insights in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video and found it engaging, I invite you to subscribe to our channel for more similar content. Feel free to share this video. Take good care of yourselves, and I'm excited to connect with you in our future videos.